We will now proceed for the presentation from Professor Francesco Fartoni, and there are some more questions, but I'll put that to the panel later. Professor Francesco, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry for...
Fantastic. Let's hear from you.
Thank you. Sorry for the issue before. I was looking for a better connection, but then I lost connection. But I was here from the beginning. So I'm going to share my screen. Now you should see my full screen, right? Can you see my full screen with the slides?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, thanks a lot for the invitation to the World Center of Accra, and of course, thanks to Ecomondo staff. I'm proud to be a member of the Technical Scientific Committee of Ecomondo and to share our knowledge around the world. Not only our Italian knowledge, but also our European knowledge. Why? Because I'm also Water Europe ambassador, and I'm a IWA fellow, International Water Association. So it's part of our mission to find fit for purpose innovative solutions. And this is the topic of my talk today. I'm going to speak about green and innovative solutions for sustainable water management in the context of circular economy. Even because in Water Europe, I'm co-leading the Value in Water cluster, and I'm going to say what we mean for value in water. So the content of this presentation, I'm going to present what is circular economy for the water sector, and I'm going to show the approach that we are having in the water sector at European level, but also at the global level. Then I'm going to show some full-scale examples and some innovative European innovation actions dealing with water reuse, alternative water sources, water monitoring, and what is very relevant in this pandemic emergency, the water health nexus. Finally, I'm going to talk about innovation. Why? Because I selected among the several projects we are carrying out, the ones that can be of major interest for Africa, but of course with a perspective of what is circular economy as state of the art. So let's start from the circular economy principles and how water is fitting the circular economy principles. Well, we have to design out waste externalities, keep resources in use, and regenerate natural capital. So circular economy is not the recycle economy, is also addressing the resilience of the territories, how to increase the biodiversity, and how to eco-design our systems. Water in circular economy is transversal, but sometimes was considered a minor point. Of course, as a water professional, I think that water is a major point. And how can we move from linear water thinking to circular water thinking? Well, at the moment we are using fresh water sources. We are using, rarely alternative water sources. And then we are treating the water not to be discharged into the water bodies. We are not considering closed loops enough, and we are not considering how nature-based solution can be linked with the green and gray solutions in order to have a closed loop together with the high resilience of the system. So this is the concept that Helen MacArthur Foundation was recently analyzing in the white paper that has been published. And this is the high-level ambition that we have to take in mind in our projects. If we move from this scheme about water management that is also including the water services, so the urban water infrastructure, to the specific point of urban water infrastructure, we can see as, according to the circular economy concept, we have to recover what is sustainable at a certain stage of the treatment. Of course, hydroelectricity from a drinking water system, water use as close as possible to the production of wastewater, and selecting the cleanest possible source of that water. Because the more we are going to collect also industrial wastewater, urban runoff, and so on, the more it will be challenging to clean that water. Of course, water use can be done at decentralized level, but also at centralized level. And here we can see, as even according the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, the treatment plant can become a resource of factory. We have to consider that in 2017, the World Water Day, the topic of the World Water Day was wastewater and untapped resource. So we are not exploiting enough the resources that are embedded in wastewater. Going to a broader concept about considering water as value, this is the Water Europe vision. So the vision is to consider different uses of water for different users, for different purposes, with different sources. So multiple waters for multiple users and for multiple uses. And to close the loop according to different sources that have to be used for the specific use. Nowadays, all these can be really implemented because we have a huge amount of data that can be gathered from water sources and can better address the right quality of use for the fit for purpose use. And at the moment, thanks to the huge amount of digital information that are available from water systems, we can really exploit these for optimizing water infrastructures. And it has been estimated €1 billion of data value that are available in water systems by always considering the integration of green and grey infrastructure, because water resilience is a major challenge. So that was the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. This is the Water Europe vision. But what about the circular economy? And what about the resources that are embedded in water and in wastewater or in drinking water treatment plants? Well, this pyramid is valid not only for waste, it's also valid for wastewater and for water treatment plants. So the more is the volume, the less is the value. At the moment, when we deal with wastewater, we have a major issue that is the end of waste. I mean, the toxic compound that can be included in this material. So our ambition is to go to level 3, to recover performance material, chemicals, fertilizer, always having clear in mind that our first mission is to produce clean water, if possible, for water use. In this context, what is our full-scale experience in Italy? Well, in Italy, we have the largest municipal wastewater treatment plant that is delivering treated water for use. This is the treatment plant of Milano Nocedo. Here you can see the plant. And around Milano, in the peri-urban area, we have peri-urban agriculture that is using this water for reuse. So, as you know, Milano is not a water scarce area, but is a water stressed area. So the challenge is to analyze water stressed area, and even where water seems available, to optimize the cycle from a holistic point of view. In this case, what is the treatment train? Well, the treatment train is pre-treatment, conventional activities large, plus infiltration, plus optimized disinfection with peracetic acid or UV in order to avoid disinfection byproducts. And the sludge is then further treated in order to reuse 86 million cubic meters per year for irrigation in peri-urban area. This plant is in operation over more than 10 years, and the challenge here is to include the best safety practice and to have a risk-based approach to guarantee always the safety of the water that is then used in agriculture. For this purpose, a scientifically sound approach was developed for drinking water. And here you can see an example of the way we are approaching safety of drinking water in the water safety plan. Starting from the World Health Organization guideline, it's obligatory in utilities to have a drinking water safety plan where monitoring of water by certain parameters that are not the same in all the cities, in all the countries, in all the regions, we can minimize the risk for drinking water. So this is in place, for example, in the province of Milano, and here you can see the just application of the different sources of water with the parameters that are monitored to optimize the risk. What about wastewater reuse? Well, in case of reuse, the new European legislation with the minimum quality standard for wastewater reuse is also setting the main guideline for the water use risk management plan. At the moment, the challenge is to apply the World Health Organization guidelines for sanitation safety plan for the water use, including not only the food chain, but also the soil pollution, but including also the public perception about water use. This challenge is crucial if we want to really apply a practice for water use. So how to monitor this complex scheme? Here you see an example of our innovation action that is within the PRIMA European program, where we are developing a water reuse risk management plan, including the system starting from the catchment up to the sewer system, the treatment plant, the irrigation system, and the field crops and soil. We are analyzing the risk in all this system, and we are taking advantage of lab data and digital data to minimize the risk according to the risk matrix of the World Health Organization. Of course, in this context, even new challenges such as the COVID situation can be considered and is considered. So this system is a living safety plan that is currently in place to optimize water use. So everything is in place, is going to be more and more implemented for the drinking water, but also for water use, we are going to have the same approach. But in order to guarantee water security, we need to upgrade our water monitoring. And even in this case, the challenge is to have more and more digital solution and to have advantages from new sensors, new robotics. Here in this scheme, you can see an example of the IntCatch 2020 innovation action that was running from 2016 up to 2020. What we are doing here, we are integrating mobile robots, mobile robotics, to monitor the catchment, the rivers and the lakes, and to integrate this data with the lab data in order to provide what? To provide not only water monitoring data, but also the decision support system to best plan the infrastructure at catchment level. So our challenge is to finally deliver real-time monitoring to understand the different sources of pollution and to guarantee all the time the best quality of infrastructure and management of infrastructure. Still in water monitoring, Italy is very, very active also in analyzing the role of wastewater characteristics as wastewater-based epidemiology. And here you can see an example of our National Health Institute, how SARS-CoV-2 was analyzed already and found in wastewater much before the explosion of the pandemic in March. Last 2 minutes are about an innovation project that is dealing with how to close the cycle with nature-based solution and solution that can be implemented in rural area. In particular, I'm talking about the Hydrusa project. This is a 12 million project that is currently ongoing, where different alternative water sources are demonstrated. So from rainwater to harvested and recharged groundwater, water vapor, seawater. These are collected and treated in different innovative systems where the challenge is to be available for rural areas in order to be reused for agriculture and to produce marketable products that can boost even the ecotourism. In this slide, you can see the full concept of Hydrusa, where you can see how the loops are closed. And these systems are in demonstration in 3 Mediterranean islands. So we are valorizing wastewater in anaerobic treatment plus constructed wetland for reuse in agroforestry. But in parallel, we are recharging the aquifer and we are storing the harvested rainwater to be reused also in this case for agroforestry. We are adopting nature-based desalination for providing clean water for the city. And together with that, we are also optimizing the reuse of biogas from the centralized system. With this concept, the challenge is to use non-conventional water production for agriculture production, but also to boost ecotourism and to boost the local market, so to boost the local rural economy. I'm going to show a few pictures about what we are doing. So we are developing 6 hydros, 6 solutions. Hydro 1 is in Lesbos, and here we have an anaerobic treatment plus nature-based solution, filtration disinfection to irrigate agroforestry. And in this case, you can see the plant. The plant is currently under construction. It will be able to treat 100 cubic meter per day. Nature-based solutions are aerated and electroactive as well. And the final aim is to use the effluent for water use according even to the Class A of the minimum quality standard for European regulation. And here we are also using innovative sensors, for example, for pathogens. Why? Because we want to use safe water for agroforest in this case. This is the Hydro 2. And this system will be able to produce locally what is the need for the local economy. But the focus is not only on wastewater, it's also on rainwater harvesting. And here you can see a design of innovative rainwater harvesting system where a geomembrane has been used together with the filling material. And here you can see the plan of the design and some picture of the construction. This plant has been finalized, is already working, again in Mediterranean island. And here you can see some picture. But this is not the last one. We have also mangrove solar steel, where we are using desalination system in natural solutions. And finally, you can see here what we are doing in an ecotourist facility, where we are closing the loop in a touristic diffuse hotel in the island of Tinos. So here you can see some of the systems that we think are available also for rural areas. What is the innovation? The innovation is that we are mixing the nature-based solution and the local solution with high-level digitalization. So all this system will be optimized thanks to innovative sensors into the overall holistic sustainable assessment. Last slide is about the future. The future of centralized plant is to work as a resource factory. And in this context, what we have just finalized, and this project was awarded as the best project in the water sector in 2018, is the Smart Plant project. At the moment, we are working in conventional treatment plants to recover resources, not only energy, but also materials, such as cellulose, biopolymers. And this material is used as new fertilizer in the construction industry in order to link the water sector and the other chemical sector. And this is the way we are optimizing the value in water, and we are exploiting the untapped resource. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Fantastic presentation, Prof. And because we are slipping behind time, we will not, we'll leave the questions for the Q&A section and move straight to the presentation by our colleague, Dean Kashobia from Uganda. Dean, are you with us? Can you proceed?
Hello, everyone. I guess you can hear me well.
Please go ahead.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, my name is Dean Kashobia from Uganda, and I'm an environmental scientist and a chemical technologist. I do work with the government of Uganda, mainly on standardization, specializing in sustainability standards, environmental management systems, and now on circular economy. I'm also affiliated to African Circular Economy Network. I'm the chapter lead in Uganda. Here we go, circular economy and sustainable agribusiness opportunities in Africa. Let's see. Currently, there are many definitions of circular economy, varying. However, there seems to be a unanimity that we have to keep the high value of resources. We have to apply the system thinking, and we have to look at the 3 dimensions of environmental, social, and economic sustainability within circular economy. But however, though there are different definitions, some collaboration has come up at the international level. At ISO level, different standards are being developed, which are within the circular economy, as you can see, framework, principles, terminology, and management systems, guidance for implementation and sectorial application, measuring circularity, specific issues of circular economy. All those are standards being developed at the international level, which shows that the world is coming together in advancing circular economy. Let's see the untapped potential in the agriculture sector in Africa. The population is around 1.3 billion. And of that, 60% is below the age of 25. Yet we see the growth rate, the annual growth rate is at 2.5. What if we tap in that potential to advance the agribusiness or the agriculture sector? And we know that agriculture involvement is 60% of the population. Just imagine all that population into agriculture, if it was to be sustainable production. And you know, around 874 hectares of land are suitable, but very little is being utilized to enable sustainable production in the agriculture sector. And we know that Africa is behind all other regions in terms of agricultural production. But this sector is having numerous challenges and a cocktail of problems: technological skills, legislation, infrastructure, accessibility to finance, supply chain fragmentation. All these challenges are hindering sustainability within the agriculture sector and actually hindering businesses within the agriculture sector. Let's see opportunities which are available. Already there is land which can be utilized for production, both crops, livestock. All that immense opportunities are there. There's a reduced risk of production. If you are looking at nutritional foodstuffs, you can process them from the source. Then that means reduced cost of production. What about market for renewable technologies, solar, bioenergy, all that, which can be utilized in the agriculture sector for sustainable production? All that remains untapped. What about renewable sources of products? Let's say tiles, you are looking at paper, fiber, you are looking at compost, fertilizer, etc. What about disruptive innovations? The new business models, product as a service, all these are untapped, and this is already available market. What about the new markets which you can establish? What about the tax incentives that can be utilized to promote sustainability and business growth within the agriculture sector? What about other business innovative technologies that can be employed to enable sustainable production? Look at several labor-saving technologies. Look at irrigation, land management, and land preparation technologies. All this is untapped potential within this sector. How about these benefits for the organization or a company that can get involved in tapping this potential? Improved reputation, better risk management, enhanced ability to retain staff, customer attraction, cost savings, sustainable shared value, improved relations with regulators. All that is untapped. and there is market, but we need invest. Think broadly, but not only CE, but integrate all other strategies to make CE work better. Strategies within the green economy, bioeconomy, blue economy, natural capitalism, biomimicry, the natural state, the series, principles, industrial ecology, graduate craft, the image, all those. If we integrate different strategies within the CE, then we can enhance our sustainability movement. This one I used it some time back. How you cannot just practice CE without numbers to show what is going on. You need to really tell us or tell the public that these are the benefits in terms of numbers. And as we know that sustainability is a journey, we expect improvement in the activities all along. So you can see the social, economic, and environmental determination of the benefits. And we know also that CE can help us largely in achieving the SDGs. And we know it is linked to all the 17 SDGs, depending on how you apply it. And if we focus on it, it can also help us in attaining the sustainable development. And we are sure that every resource is useful and nothing is useless. You just need to know how to utilize it in maintaining the highest value. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Our next presentation is from Robert Ribori. He's president of Biomicrobics INC. Robert focuses on innovative water and wastewater and stormwater treatment products for on-site marine and offshore industries with a presence in food, dairy, and agriculture as well. Biomicrobics are one of our commercial partners for this event, and their presentation is highly anticipated. I would like to hand over now to Robert. Robert, can you please take over from here?
Yes, thank you. I go by Bob. I'm president of Biomicrobics. We have 3 factories here in the United States that manufacture decentralized wastewater, water, stormwater, gray water, ballast water treatment systems certified to the world standards for land and sea. We have over 80,000 systems operating in over 80 countries, including many countries in Africa. Let us start the presentation, but you're going to see a stark difference between some of the systems that were shown by Professor Fartoni and Biomicrobics, and then at the end, a cute video that was put together by a construction company that just started up one of our systems at an airport an hour away from here. So if you want to think about it, the world has 97% salt water. Of the 3% that's fresh water, 2% is frozen as glaciers. So 1% of the water is available to us, and it's the same 1% of the water that the dinosaurs used. So if you think about it, in the water industry, we've always been in a circular economy, not just Africa, but all of Earth. So I just explained this. And it's been the same water that we've been drinking for millions of years. We just need more efficient technologies to keep creating and providing clean water for people by wastewater treatment, stormwater treatment, and drinking water treatment, or wastewater harvesting and stormwater harvesting. Really, you need to look at water as the other presenters have, which is a resource. It's not something that we should take for granted. there's an enormous amount of water that's used for toilets. And people have difficulty thinking that they can reuse black water, but it's very easy to do, and we do that now. And a lot of people don't have access to clean water, and that's one of our goals. So we're coming up with better methods for harvesting black and gray water for water reuse. And water reuse is huge everywhere around the world. And there's only 2 countries that have more water than they'll really ever need. That's probably Canada and Russia, because they don't have enough people to use up all the water they really have. So right now, the economics for water is starting to say, hey, it's cheaper to treat and reuse the water for things like agriculture, toilet flushing, than it is to discard it and let it go back to the sea through rivers and what have you. So this is our presence. We are expanding in Africa rather aggressively. Normally, I travel 20 of the 52 weeks of the year. Obviously, that's not happening this year. But last year, I was in Africa 3 different times. Or more. Are you trying to advance that?
No, I'm not. I'm going to move up.
Okay. So we do trademark things like SOS, Save Our Septic, Fit for Purpose, and things of that nature.
1 second, because it's. We just received this award.
Okay, so we're trying to get to the screen. The formal announcement will be soon, but we just received this award as the Decentralized Water and Wastewater 2020 Company of the Year from Frost & Sullivan. It's our 4th Frost & Sullivan award over the years, and we actually have many technology awards and also quite a few export awards from the U.S. government, the state of Kansas, where I am, and that's our headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
So this is headquarters. It's 2 buildings. On 6 acres of land. The building in the far distance is also part of ours, yes. But you're going to see a before and after picture because we then installed solar panels. We sealed the roof and installed solar panels. So, and then we did nothing but LED lights throughout the facility, inside and out. So we're actually supplying our own power. And we have treatment systems for wastewater that are designed to run off of alternative energy as well. This is inside one of the warehouses. Everything that we have is in stock, ready to ship. So it's a high volume operation with 11 dock high doors, 2 drive-in. Okay, keep advancing. That's just one of the buildings. This is our facility for where we make our marine systems and our drinking water systems for vessels and offshore platforms. Ballast water treatment as well. This is our facility in the state of Maine, where we also make another type of decentralized wastewater treatment using clever trickling filters that can be buried. So this is really the point. So how is water reused? Anything and everything you could think of is how water is reused, but these are some of the top reuse targets. Obviously, irrigation is easy, toilet flushing, fire water storage tanks, makeup water for cooling towers, washing the floors of large retailers on the midnight shift. This is done more often than people realize, but they use a lot of water in that application. So why not reuse the water from the treatment that you did during the first 2 shifts? Wash down water at factories and food processing plants. We do a lot of wineries where they reuse the water for washing down the equipment. Washing service vehicles, like delivery vehicles and things like that. Many, many applications. One that's unique is keeping concrete wet in the desert after you've poured it so that it doesn't crack in the heat during the first 2 weeks of curing. But I can go on and on for these applications. So let's go ahead and show some of those eventually. We do have more third-party certifications than any company in the world. In fact, we even have more than these. Go ahead. And if anyone wants to see this presentation, they can email us and we'll go ahead and send it to them. But what we really do is simple, low-cost, robust systems that are easy to install. Go ahead. And all the markets that you could think of, we're involved in. So residential, commercial, marine, offshore, 80,000 systems in over 80 countries. It's a lot of different applications. A brewery in Patagonia in South America. So this is our most popular product. It's attached growth wastewater treatment. And we'll show you quite a few of these systems here just to show the divergence of our decentralized technologies versus a centralized approach. So here you're seeing pre-aeration to your left down at the bottom of the basin. Our clever screens that you only lift the handle up and down maybe once or twice per year, as opposed to a bar screen that needs to be cleaned daily. And then beyond that, the aeration system. Next. This system was put in at a resort. This is 150 cubic meters per day of treatment at a resort in Jamaica. The three gentlemen that kind of moved the lawn chairs around the pool, changed the light bulbs, they put this in without a crane in 3 days with no help from us, and they've never put a wastewater treatment system in before. It's actually a sophisticated plant that has a low total nitrogen, so we actually did nitrogen conversion, denitrification, disinfection in the chlorine contact tank, and went direct to a sea. I believe this system was put in Romania. This was the system I was describing earlier. So you have, this is a system in Croatia at a hotel.
With biosolids management.
Right. This is Kenya. They're putting in in this case, they were putting in a 300 cubic meter per day system in a rural area without a crane by sliding the modules down into the basin and then bolting them all together to make one monolithic wastewater treatment plant. And they're engineered to be that way. So we number which unit goes where in the sequence. These are some other installations throughout the African continent. This is Buffalo Mall down in the plains of, this is a famous mall down in the southern part of Kenya in the plains. And they reuse the water for toilet flushing, gardening, and irrigation. Go ahead. I honestly don't remember where this one was.
It's in Kenya.
It's in Kenya?
Mm-hmm.
It's a different application then. Go ahead. Keep going. That's a smaller residential application. They're assembling some of the parts that are all designed to be very simple. This was water reuse in a high-end neighborhood that we installed. Go ahead, next. This is a smaller, well, it's a small commercial application. Go ahead. Do the same one. This was a very interesting project. This is in Nigeria. At all of the railway stops, they're installing our systems for the train stations, for the bathrooms, the food service, and all that. So as they expand the railway, they're putting our systems in, and they're under the ground. Okay, most of our systems, there's no maintenance for our systems inside the treatment vessel. nothing to clean, no moving parts. So they're able to install everything under the ground and landscape on top of it. But as you can see, they do have access hatches to key components. And there is a vent to vent the air to the atmosphere. And that's what that white PVC horseshoe looking vent is in the foreground. Okay. Another installation, you can see the screen in the settling part of the tank, and then a treatment module in the next. Here they're mounting a chlorinator with part of our systems, simple tablet chlorinator. And this is that same system, but at startup. So the very first startup period. Now, I want to talk about this because we're close to the end of our presentation. This is a 2-minute movie or 3-minute movie. It's kind of clever. It was done by a construction company that just started up one of our membrane bioreactors with a large international consulting engineering firm at an airport 1 hour from here. They put together this film for World Water Day. So what's impressive about it, it shows the value of the water, and at the same time, at the end, it shows the larger centralized treatment equipment as opposed to the type of approach that we take. So it does show a contrast towards the end. Go ahead. And I'll stay quiet and let the film speak for itself. Buffering.
Apologies.
So obviously, it puts an emphasis on the importance of water. The difference is we're putting in right now 3 600 cubic meters per day systems in the Alembe district outside of Durban, South Africa, to supplement failing traditional wastewater treatment systems. We're putting in a 3,000 cubic meter per day system. For the same reason, in the Ivory Coast, we're doing similar ones in South America and elsewhere here in the United States and throughout the world. We just did a very large one in a rural area for a pulp and paper mill in Uruguay. I can go on, but the idea is water and wastewater technologies in the circular economy for Africa and the rest of the world will continue to thrive. What we're doing is making them simple, low cost, and robust, very little, if not no maintenance, and very low cost. So therefore, we're making these things available for the masses at a reasonable price. And that's the economics of water and the circular world. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Bob. You talked about a lot about projects that your company was undertaking in other African countries except in Ghana. What's your level of involvement in Ghana, and what's your strategic plan for Africa in the next couple of years?
So I'm actually real big on Africa and Southeast Asia. We do sell in India, China, but we sell in Eastern Europe, Russia. We're really all over the world. Africa is an expanding continent with both people, young people, emerging markets with middle class. So I've been making a big push. I've personally been traveling there. Ghana in particular, we have a new distributor there who is now working with us to design projects. We just had 3 meetings yesterday with Morocco, because we're also in North Africa, such as Libya, Algeria. But Sub-Saharan Africa, we're making a large expansion, and we don't treat them any differently than we treat, say, New Zealand or France or Ireland, per se, or Italy. So, in fact, we've done the Ecomondo trade show some years ago, and we would have been there again this year, but obviously we can't travel outside of our country. Same with Africa. Normally I would be traveling across Africa. I think last year I was in Ethiopia, Tanzania, South Africa. I can't recall if I was in another. But Africa is a very good opportunity. I'm not sure. Most of the world probably isn't aware of that, but I've been following it for quite some time, and I believe it was 5 or 6 years ago we started to make a more aggressive push to meet with companies in Africa and get started. And I think we've got a longer presence there than that. We're continuing to size things for those countries. Right now we're training people via Zoom with systems set up in our factory. We don't have a choice, but so far it's working. And I hope to get back there this time next year. Hopefully 65% of the world will have been vaccinated by then, and then we won't have the same travel restrictions that we have now.
Thank you. Fantastic. It's been a pleasure to have you speak at this webinar, and we will look to engage with you further, also maybe through your local partner, to discuss other opportunities from here. We have 2 more presentations to bring the morning session to an end. The next presentation is by Gianni on renewable energy in the circular economy. So Gianni, if you are here with us, kindly take over.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Gianni Chianetta. I'm Vice President of Italia Solare, the Italian Solar PV Association. I'm also Chairman of Global Solar Council, the global association that joins all the industry of the solar energy worldwide on behalf of Italia Solare. And I'm being invited by Accra, that I do thank for the invitation to talk about circular economy. Circular economy is a very well-known word, but not many people knows what is it, circular economy. Circular economy has been applied mainly to the West in the common sense, and is a concept where anyway a product as is produced, is used, and is recycled in order to be reused again. And but circular economy can be applied to all the economies. That's why nowadays when we talk about circular economy, we talk about in reality circular economies like energy, water, mobility, waste, agriculture, blue growth, sustainable tourism, etc. So each one of these sectors can have its own circular economy, and each sector can be integrated with the other, creating a nexus in a way that we can talk about circular economies of the all sectors in order to make an allocation, a community, self-sufficient and sustainable. I'd like to make some example, for instance, about Nexus, energy water Nexus. We have to know that 4% of the energy produced in the world is going to water. And this number is going to double in the next 20 years, so by 2040. This according to the International Energy Agency. This increase of energy demand from the waters sector is mainly due to the sharp increase of water desalination and water treatment. So now the question is how we are going to produce this additional energy. So the answer is the renewables is solar. That could for sure decrease the cost of the water and produce the water in a sustainable way. When we talk about mobility, e-mobility, which is which is having a huge increase. We have only to think that every year the market of e-mobility increase of 40%. Well, we have to say that if we utilize the energy for the e-mobility from fossil fuels, we have not resolved the problem. We have not done anything anyway. So feeding the e-mobility with the solar energy, with the renewables, means to move in a sustainable way. And let me say, in reducing also cost. Of course, remaining in the e-mobility, we can talk about vehicle to grid. What does mean vehicle to grid? Vehicle to grid means to have a group of cars, a group of electric vehicles that are parked in a place, and they are through this system, the vehicle to grid system, the battery of these electric vehicles works as a battery for the grid, for the stability of the grid. So if we think about the big increase of millions and millions of electric vehicles that will populate the planet, the cost of the batteries for the grid stability could be reduced thanks to this optimization of the use of, as I was saying, the storage from the mobility. Then we have waste to energy. We have a lot of way of producing energy from waste, like for instance the pyrogasification systems and so on. Then we talk about agriculture. We can, of course, the modern agriculture cannot really need energy if we want to have an agriculture which is industrialized for all the tools for running the cultivation, also of course for the industry of the agriculture sector itself, and of course, agriculture needs water. So try to find the synergies, the integration, the nexus between agriculture, energy, water, with the new technologies and sustainable technologies is really a very good example of circular economy. Remaining the agriculture, for instance, we can bring the example of the PV greenhouse, where the solar panels can mobilize all the activities with the energy that are inside the greenhouse. There are hydroponic cultivation, for instance, that utilize the lights that, of course, makes sense if the light comes from the solar panels, of course. And we have also the blue growth, for instance, the ocean energy, where, of course, the force of the waves can mobilize turbines that can produce energy, and this energy can be integrated in the grid, and in a way of course, having ocean energy also to complement the needs of a community together with the other sources, and so on. So Africa, going to Africa, I think Africa is an opportunity. Developed markets have a problem. A problem on the fact that there are already a lot of old plants, fossil fuel plants with diesel or with gas that has been built with a lot of investments. So there is the resistance from all these, let's say, the company running this old structure that are not so much in favor to a fast change, even if and despite the renewables are much cheaper and of course clean. And when you go to Africa and starting for instance from remote location where there is not grid, or there is no energy, or there is a very weak grid, well, there is makes sense to go directly with the renewables, and that are really much cheaper than the old fossil fuel source of energies, and can be also small dimension, no, for small communities. So this is, of course, and when we talk about the remote communities, the nexus between energy and water is even more important, because you can have really also small desalination plant combined with solar, and so you can give energy and water at low cost in a sustainable way. So Africa is the ideal place where to apply a circular economy model. So in order to make an example, an example of an ideal circular economy model, you have to think about a community that is designed in a way that to be self-sufficient and sustainable, and this means to have a mix of renewables, so you can have distributed solar systems in the roofs of the houses, and also maybe also one located on next to a village or a small town, or a town in general, and you can have solar energy, you can have windmills, you can have geothermal systems, you can have waste to energy plants, and you can have also desalination plants which are embedded in the grid, where a desalination plant or a water desalination plant can be one important user of the grid. Then you have, of course, electromobility chargers and so on, and how to govern all these systems. Of course, there is a smart grid managing systems, which is a software that integrate the data and have the, of course, target to to distribute properly the energy among all the users in a way that the energy is immediately consumed and distributed where is the consumption, and this reduce the need of storage, so reduce the cost of the whole system, and reduce, of course, the cost of energy, and give stability to the grid and secure energy and water. So just to make an example. We've talked about an ideal model that can be done, for instance, in a small community or in a big community where you want to redesign totally the system. Going to some concrete example or something that you can touch better. Let's talk about a diesel power thermal plant. Africa is full of diesel fossil fuel thermal plants, and that are producing energy, polluting at a very high cost. So what's the opportunity of the renewables, of solar energy now, is to hybridize the diesel thermal plants. So in a way that you can have a percentage of the energy coming from solar. So you can put, for instance, a solar thermal plant next to a diesel thermal plant, and you can mix the energy coming from the two sources of energy, from the two plants, the solar and the diesel. This can be done easily when the solar energy is a count of the energy produced by the solar system count is 10% of the total energy consumed. But when you go over this 10%, you cannot put together directly the solar plant with the diesel thermal plant. You need to have in the middle a so-called HPMS, the Hybrid Power Management System, which involves a software, which involves a storage system that works as an interface. So thanks to the solar, if for instance you have 10 diesel genset, thanks to the solar, for instance, you can, the solar presence, you can turn off one diesel genset. But in case you know the solar has, of course, the curve of the solar production is irregular, is not programmable, and go up and down. And what happened? That in case you have no solar energy, the engine need to come back to work in a very short time. And this irregular curve of the solar production could require the diesel genset to start to have a stop and go that could affect, of course, the mechanism. So the HPMS with the storage inside, I'm making simple, the system, but it's, of course, there are a lot of technicalities. Just to let you understand, is a sort of buffer with the storage that when the solar go down, the storage system give the time to the diesel engine to come back to work without stress. So this is in a few words the hybrid system. Of course, you can have hybrid systems with solar, with solar energy, with a solar plant, with a windmill, with a different source of energy, and the HPMS could be the system that integrate all these the renewables power plant and the fossil fuel power plant or plants in a way to have the maximum efficiency, the minimum stress of the diesel genset, and reduce, of course, the cost. Well, with an hybrid power system, you can really, anyway, if you use the HPMS, depends on the size of storage, you can reach even the 70% of penetration of renewables in the diesel. So very good results. And of course, the target is to reach, which is possible, the 100%. So you can also apply, and just to make another example where I think you might be familiar, the solar desalination plant, where normally I'm sure you have desalination plant where the energy is coming from a traditional diesel power plant. Well, you can hybridize the diesel power plant serving the desalination plant, and of course, when we talk about solar desalination plants, of course, you can have systems and softwares that can, of course, interfere can communicate with the diesel thermal plant, but also with the desalination plant, in order to have the total efficiency. So, just to conclude, there are a lot of examples and the best practice worldwide of hybrid systems, of solar desalination plants, etc. Yes, Italia Solare is available to provide some example. There are a lot of big brands and companies that have developed all these technology and software. There is no risk anymore as maybe was perceived in the past, because we are talking about mature technology. So solar technology is mature. Even this software and the HPMS are existing for many years now. As far as I remember, there is some reluctance from mines companies, for instance, in Africa, to hybridize the power plant, the diesel power plant, because of course they're afraid of blackout. Blackout means, especially when you talk about gold mines, means of course to affect the income, the operations. But in reality, nowadays, this is not anymore a risk, and on the contrary, in reality, is the solar system can really secure the availability of energy, because is not especially when you have geopolitical problems, you don't need to bring the diesel to the place, or anyway also the solar energy reduce the cost of the total production of energy of at least 20-30%. So which means a big amount. The mines company has bills of 60 million euro per year, so you can estimate how much can be to reduce the cost of such a percentage. So I wish you all the best for the rest of the meeting, the rest of the event. Thank you very much, and Italia Solare remain available for providing best practices, and also to bring to the African countries the expertise built in many years of experience in regulation, grid regulation, of course, integration of renewable solar in the grid, of policies like the feed-in tariff, and of course feed-in tariff and net metering has been in Italy something that of course were something very important to develop the market. We have more than 20 gigawatts solar PV, and thanks to this mechanism, and Italia Solare is available to support African countries to develop proper policies. Italia Solare and of course Global Solar Council, which is the global association solar energy, where Italia Solare is one of the founder member and leader. Thank you very much, and I wish you all the best in the continuation of this event. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The final presentation for the morning session will be on also another interesting topic, circular business as a sustainable and profitable model. It will be done by Jessica. Jessica, if you're here with us, kindly take it over, and we look forward to your presentation. Thank you.
Hello, thank you so much. I am going to go ahead and share my screen. And if you all don't mind, I'm going to turn my video off so that you don't see me staring closely into the computer screen as I look at my slides. All right. So I won't spend much time on the topic, but do a quick introduction about myself. I am coming to you today from Birmingham, Alabama. Bob, I'm not sure where you're located, but you might have had an early morning like I did. It is, we're just topping 7:30 in the morning here, so I've been with you all since about 5 a.m. So really grateful to be the last one to go, so it gave me a little bit more time to get my coffee in my system. I am not a circular economy expert. Just want to get that out in the front in the beginning. I am a wannabe waste management expert. I have worked in the waste management industry since 2010, mainly in a business development capacity. But I 2 years ago started a startup company called Neo Waste, and that's really focused on converting plastic waste into fuel using chemical recycling technologies. But I'm not here today to talk about any of that. Actually want to steer away from some of the discussion around specific solutions and talk more holistically about everything. But the last thing I want to mention is how I ended up here today. I'd be remiss not to mention the nonprofit organization here in Birmingham called Birmingham Sister Cities. This is a nonprofit that manages and oversees the actual official sister city relationships between the city of Birmingham and our sister cities around the world, 2 of which are in Ghana. So we have a sister city in Winneba and in Apaso. And we were connected to this opportunity through our relationship with World Trade Center Birmingham. So I want to thank both of those organizations for reaching out to me about this. So like I said, want to really get away from the discussions about specific solutions and issues you know, that we often hear about and talk about regularly in the context of the circular economy, and talk more about the big picture. But I will, just for starters, talk about kind of the 3 key components, because I will refer back to the common framework that we know of the circular economy. This is called the Circular Business Loops Framework. But you really have 3 key components of categories for how the circular economy is looked at, the lenses that people look at the circular economy through. The majority of articles you read, the majority of presentations you might see about the circular economy really focus on one or a few of these areas. So you're looking at, you know, the general concept of moving from linear to circular. You're talking about the specific solutions that are designed for specific waste streams and applications. So these solutions providers. And then you often hear about those facilitators. So the other technologies and the policies and other kind of underlying elements that, you know, facilitate the solution providers and facilitate the move from linear to circular for those product businesses. But it's really where all of these kind of come together and how they interplay, the complexity of that interconnectedness that I want to bring awareness to today. And then look at how that fits into the context of inequality. And then leading in, finishing up, we'll talk about, needing to change the way that we value and the way we look at profit, and talk about how we might start valuing some of those intangible benefits that we get from the circular economy. And I want to start, before we delve deeply into the conversation, by looking at a framework, another framework. I have a lot of these. This is one from a couple of my grad school professors called DRIVE. And this is a framework that really examines megatrends that are happening, these the undercurrents that drive where we're going. That's what the megatrends are. If something is going to happen in the future, the seeds of that activity are really taking root today. And that's why it's so important to look at megatrends in the broader context when talking about things like circular economy. And when we talk about demographics, and social change, this is really coming down to looking at the age of the populations, the labor force, the move towards urbanization, the rising middle class. These are some of the things we'll talk about, think about through the lens of demographic and social change. That, of course, comes down to resource scarcity. Energy, food, water, kind of the common ones that we look at, which are obviously exacerbated by climate change. And then that leads into inequalities, because it's really how those how those resources are distributed. Inequality results from uneven distribution of those resources. And there's this volatility at play all at the same time, the complexity and the scale that I'll refer to a lot during this discussion. It's, that shock that's really disrupting the world, that's, moving us from where we are to where we're going. Everything's moving faster, change is accelerating, chaos has become the norm. Things are no longer predictable. COVID is a good example of an unpredictable, disruptive event. And these are happening more frequently. Scale really comes into play with regard to our connectedness. Small local events can really have global implications and amplified impacts. And that this V section is really, that's the catalyst for changing the issues around demographics and resource scarcity and inequalities. That's the catalyst for making this change. The new technologies, the rapid development of cheap computation, big data, all these other things that are giving rise to new opportunities. And then finally, look through the lens of enterprising dynamics. And this really, they describe this more about, think about more as entrepreneurship. These are the emerging business models, the way that companies are beginning to, even larger companies are beginning to shift towards more entrepreneur type solutions. But really the emerging business models is the key thing to take away here. And since this is really talking about opportunities in Africa, I wanted to overlay these with the megatrends that are unfolding in Africa. So you can certainly see that these overlap, and this is more to keep into context as we can continue through the discussion. So let's start out talking about interconnectedness. As I've mentioned already, the word complexity is the first word that really comes to mind for me in the big picture context of the circular economy. No company operates in isolation, right? Each of us, each company exists in a broader ecosystem. I was happy to hear a couple of the presenters earlier mention, the systemic nature of change that's going to be required for the circular economy to really have the impact that everyone is banking on it having. And it's so important to remember how everything is dependent on one another. Each exists in this ecosystem where societal conditions can curtail the markets and restrict productivity of suppliers and distributors, and government policies can present their own limitations and cultural norms. And these are conditions that go beyond the control of any company or any single actor. And to advance the circular economy efforts, we really have to start fostering a more participatory, multi-sector effort to be able to manage this complexity and the dependency that we all have on one another. I like to use an example of tires. My very first job out of college was working for a tire recycling company. So this was my intro to the idea of circularity. And I spent most of my time trying to figure out who's going to buy the tire shred that we're producing. And, you know, it just really opened my mind to the concept of circularity in a way, you know, having something to apply it to directly really opens your mind. But, you know, when you start really breaking it down, you know, we think of, oh, we need a solution other than landfilling for these tires. And then when you start thinking about, okay, well, let's recycle them. Then you get down to, okay, well, how do we do that? We need a shredder, right? We need to be able to shred these tires first. But, you know, the shredders that are out on the market are not great for tires over a long period of time. So the design of that shredder really has an impact. When we talk about, you know, the makeup and the materials of that tire, you know, it's mostly oil-based. You have the steel belts, all these other things that, you know, hey, as we talk about circular economy and those resources become scarcer, or people stop using those fossil-based resources, then you may have the actual makeup of the tire, the design of that tire will have to change. It has to be dependent on all the other elements. The design of that tire is dependent on the roadway, the material that the roadways are made from. If we start implementing more circular solutions around roadway construction, how does that impact what, you know, a circular solution for a tire might look like? When we talk about, you know, waste to energy, that's another often cited solution for things like tires and plastic and municipal solid waste. You know, are we talking about massive centralized infrastructure that's going to be dependent on, you know, major complex logistics to move waste from place to place? Then, you know, talking about, you know, who's paying for all of this? In Alabama, we are charged a fee every time we buy a new tire. They charge us a few dollars on a fee on the front end, and that goes to the state. It goes to a scrap tire recycling fund. And they use this money to clean up illegal dump sites for tires and give to grant companies to come in and clean up these dump sites and things like this. So the policy elements, you can just start to see when you just looking at the tire as a single example, and I'll stop the example there because in my notes, I could go on probably for the entire time just talking about the tire example and make this point even clearer. But at the end of the day, it's about seeing how codependent and complex the systemic nature of any business is, but especially when we start talking about circularity. The dependency element, you know, there's a really great example that I like to talk about in this context with regard to Walmart. And this may be a story that you've all heard, but several years back, they were looking to reduce their packaging costs and reduce, you know, their environmental impact. And when they started looking at okay, how can we change our packaging to be, you know, have more recycled content? They got stuck because they could not find the recyclers could not provide, they couldn't find enough supply of recycled plastic to meet the demand for their packaging. So they delved deeper into, okay, well, why can't we find this solution? Why are there not suppliers out there? Well, recycling isn't commonplace in most places, especially down here in the Southeast where I'm located. You know, landfilling is still the way to go. And so these recycling companies aren't recycling, there's not enough recycling happening, so they can't get enough recycled plastic to put into their new packaging to achieve their circular goals. And so they didn't stop there either. They then they went to see, okay, well, what is the true impediment to recycling? And what they learned was that, you know, municipalities don't have access to capital to implement these recycling programs. And so they formed a coalition to start a fund that provides funding to municipalities to start recycling programs. And in that way, they're, you know, bringing it all full circle so that they will have the recycled content that they need for their new packaging. So that's really where this codependency comes into play and where we get into this idea of collective impact. And this is really based on the idea that social problems arise from and really persist because of this complex combination of actions and, of all the different players and all the different sectors. So it's the idea that it can only be solved by a coordinated effort of those players, those businesses, the government agencies, the nonprofits, NGOs, and then the members of that affected population as well. We know that businesses whose growth and resilience are constrained by societal problems have powerful motive to kickstart social change. And because collective impact is able to mobilize resources from many entities, this means that businesses are not shouldering those massive costs and that societal transformation by themselves. It's truly a win-win for everyone. Let me hop on down to the rebound effects and talk about the fact that, at the end of the day, think this may work so well, right, that it may reduce costs, it may increase demand because, hey, we're able to cut costs in our production. We can offer things at lower cost. More people can be in the job market. We're buying more. Consumption is increasing. But this idea of the rebound effects in circular economy is, based on, increases in production and consumption. The efficiencies that we've achieved are actually being offset by increased demand for production and consumption because of the way that economics work. So these are just a couple things to keep in mind when we talk about the interconnectedness and complexity of the circular economy. And this really, brings me to the next topic of inequality, which, social impact is really too often left out of the circular economy discussions. I did note that a few of the earlier presenters have mentioned sustainable development and have this, the triple bottom line approach where people is a piece of that. But people are at the core of everything, and especially in the circular economy. And we really have to start seeing people as citizen first and consumer second. This has really brought about something called Circular Economy 2.0, some of you may be familiar with, but it's really about taking the circular economy to the next level, going beyond just designing out waste and inefficiencies. This brings in a whole idea of designing out inequality and designing out financial exclusion from efforts like the circular economy. Making sure that as we are going through and developing all these unique solutions and figuring out how to make this work, that it's accessible and affordable to all. I'm just conscious of the time, so I'm going to just skip on to the next one so we can close out here in a minute. But the intangible value is where we get stuck, I think, really in this whole thing. It comes down to changing the way that we see and understand profit and value. There's obviously the misconception that operating more sustainably is also more expensive and hurts business growth. And this calls up a need to look at other metrics besides those standard financial ones that we always see. And there are, of course, several sets of indices now, public facing and private, the Environmental Performance Index, the Environmental Sustainability Index, the Human Development Index. But on the private side, it goes further to be able to actually, compare, just like one can compare businesses and opportunities and investment opportunities, for example, follow stocks through looking at financial metrics. There's a whole new effort underway to establish sustainability metrics that allow you to also compare the sustainability of companies side by side, just like you do the financial metrics. And at the end of the day, we just have to change the way that we define and monetize value. We have to move into more of that shared value realm, where the companies become more competitive, but they leave a net positive impact in the community when they leave. They don't take the increase in competitiveness does not offset the impact that they're having there locally. So in closing, the interconnectedness of the entire system really makes us look at this systemically. It's not enough for this to be done on a solution by solution basis. It has to be system wide. The inequalities that are at play here have given rise, obviously, to this whole idea of the circularity 2.0. And that has to continue to be built into this, because we obviously know that inequality will curb any effort any progress that we make economically and environmentally. And finally, again, just to reiterate that intangible value, and shouldn't say multi-sector coalitions there, it should be new metrics, those new metrics that account for the intangible value resulting from those environmental and social impacts. So in closing, I just want to say, to be sustainable and profitable, sustainable businesses and circular economy efforts really have to operate with that systemic awareness, keep social impact in focus at all times, and ultimately decouple that profit-making idea from value generation. And keeping in mind those, the lens of those megatrends to inform all of our decisions, our efforts, and ultimately the success of the circular economy. So that is what I have. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much, Jessica. We are going to, we're open for questions in a few minutes, and the morning session we brought to a close. Those participants who are going to be in the deal rooms, we advise you to use the link for the deal room to join your other colleagues, where you can have conversations, follow-up conversations on some of the presentations that were made today. And after that, we'll close the morning session, and the afternoon session starts exactly at 2. As I said before, participating in the morning session does not preclude you from participating in the afternoon session. So if you would like to join the afternoon session, it's open. Vernon, someone asked a question about the origins and foundations of the concept of the circular economy, and I'd like to throw that to you, since you are the Ghana rep of the Africa Circular Economy Network, to give us an idea of where this concept originated. Also, the question will be answered by Vernon, but if any of the other speakers would like to attend to this question, I'll be very happy to have you speak. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam, and thanks for the question. I presume everyone can hear me. The concept of the circular economy is actually not new. It has actually been talked about since the 60s and the 70s in terms of the cradle to cradle, you know, and all those kind of systems that existed back then. The circular economy basically was recoined sometimes, maybe in the late 80s, when the whole concept of efficiency and the need for transition to low carbon growth actually became really more up. And so it is basically nothing new. It's all about how we manage our resources, how we need to be more resource efficient, how we need to actually adopt regenerative models to production and economy, and basically how we need to design waste out of the system. It is certainly nothing new. It's not a term that just came out of the blue. It has been around for a long time, just coined in various ways. There was the life cycle assessment, there was this cradle to cradle, but the circular economy now is more like a general holistic approach to how do you actually design in a way that waste management very deeply into consideration. And that generally normally starts with, how do you design out waste? How do you design it in a way that is adaptable to where you're introducing the product? Can they manage the product? Can they manage the plastics? Can they manage styrofoam recycling, for example? If not, are there other things you can explore and kind of re-engineer your product to introduce into the market? So just to summarize, it is nothing new to kind of, and this is the origin of the circular economy. Is going to be more like a historical lecture here, which I don't really want to delve into. But the bottom line is it's basically looking deep the how uninclusive our business models have been nowadays, and how we can break down those barriers by actually looking at the vulnerable, looking at the wealthy, looking at the poor, looking at adaptation mechanisms, and trying to figure out how we can bring all this together to promote inclusive and equitable growth. That's probably how I would coin it, if that really makes sense.
What do you think is the level of awareness currently in Africa on the circular economy? This is for Vernon and Dean. But you can go first. Vernon and Dean can add up later. What's the level of awareness in the wider public, and also in the ruling class, the government, about the circular economy, the need to inculcate it in government policy, the advantages and benefits? What do you think is being done here?
At the government level, there is a lot of awareness about it already, but it's just the capacity to actually start integrating those tenants into public policy, procurement policy, and industrial practices. But it is actually, you're seeing some offshoots with the extended polluter responsibility actually being muted across 5 countries this year and next year, which is actually really look at how we and regulate plastics. For the you would know, we have been practicing the circular economy for a long time. We were generally really resource efficient. I remember my grandma teaching me about using glasses, serving customers with glasses, not using plastics, using the tin milk, kind of do moi moi, and things like that we used to do. We have had some tenets of the circular economy growing up. It's actually been there. But we have literally adopted a very fast-paced lifestyle, which meant that it became really difficult to reuse stuff, or even if we could reuse stuff, our systems became very, very congested, and we're not capable of dealing with the waste that we generated. And that is why there was this overflow and huge, massive generation of plastics and kind of types of waste that were generally imported, and we couldn't really manage them because we didn't have the systems to manage them. So awareness is there, but it's just about the practicability in terms of what sort of policies can be put in place to manage and deepen, the understanding that is there in a way that is practical and tangible, and that we can relate to. That's how we'll coin it. I'm not sure, maybe Dean has something to add to this.
Yes, thank you. I think, first of all, let me add to your origin. I think it originates much from the work of Kenneth Boulding, the economics of the coming spaceship Earth, around 1966. That's much as it is informal, but he tried to bring it up in the electric. Although it was not known that this is a circular economy, the concept now, but it is somehow traced there. And the awareness is gaining momentum, especially at the policy level. For example, now in Uganda, we have it in one of our environmental policies. You have to show how you do apply circular economy principles. Of course, there is still some lack of unanimity at the international level. People are trying to come together. So by the time they come together and they say, okay, these are the principles, then this will be perfect, feeding in the already awareness that is taking place. But people are getting aware, and that's one of the work that the African Circular Economy Network is doing across the continent. And remember, African Circular Economy Network is present in 31 African countries. So it is trying to push for the awareness of this and the adoption. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob, so have you made any assessments in terms of the price point of your technology vis-a-vis the ability of households across Africa to afford the units that you sell, or for municipalities to afford the units that you sell. There's a comment here about infrastructure costs for managing wastewater and all that. But I wanted to know from you if you did some work on assessing how the price point of your unit stands in the market or in Africa. What would be the advantage to municipalities for inculcating your systems in their wastewater management systems?
We're really not that sophisticated in terms of doing those types of studies. What we do is we respond to people with a need, whether it's a developer of a shopping mall or a school or a nursing home or a community of single-family homes, and we give them options to do the treatment that they require, and we give them the different price points. And generally speaking, there's never a discussion that the price is bad. Usually they just stick with us because their other options are almost always more expensive and sometimes significantly more expensive. But it's not just the initial purchase and installation of the equipment, it's the ongoing use and maintenance of it where we really shine. And it's not just the equipment, it's our policies and our people. And when I say people, I don't mean just our direct employees. I mean all of our distributors around the world. A year ago, May, we had a distributor conference here at Biomicrobics, and about 80 or so of the distributors from all around the world showed up. South America, Europe, Africa, and it was supposed to be a 3-day conference, and they all got along. In fact, it went a week. They stayed here the entire week, most of them. So it was quite a deal. We have a very large training room with demonstrations set up. So we had 110 people in there looking at the same screens with an overhead speaker system. And so our feedback that comes directly from their clients is what drives us. And it's the simplicity of the products and the low cost to purchase, install, and maintain that's really driving our business. And once somebody uses our things, they'll never go back to their traditional equipment again. Now, keep in mind that many years ago, I put up large wastewater and water plants all around North America, the Bahamas and elsewhere. What bothered me was how expensive it was to purchase the equipment, how long it took to get it delivered to the job site, how expensive it was for me to assemble it at the job site. And these poor operators, they would get these operation and maintenance manuals for every different piece of equipment that were this thick, but they were given 4 hours of training. And these were full-time operators that had it every 6 months, retorque this, change the oil on that. It's impossible to maintain that equipment. And it's not just an Africa thing. It's the United States, it's Europe. So things are changing rapidly. And if you can do these things in situ, building by building, community by community, there's no need for the expensive pump stations, the large sewer network, the electricity those pump stations use, the maintenance. You can save a lot of money that way too, and get beneficial use of water reuse, even if it's just for agriculture.
Fantastic. From where I sit, I think that there is a huge market opportunity for your kind of technology. There is a question for you, Bob. It says, do you also deal in potable water treatment?
We have 2 machines that provide simple disinfection. One is a very low-cost skid-mounted sodium hypochlorite machine. Essentially, we're making liquid chlorine from any salt and water, but we do it with a really small cell that doesn't use a lot of electricity. We recirculate the fluid from our brine tank every 4 hours to make the chlorine. They dose it at 1.5 parts per million so that you have half a part per million that remains as a residual while it goes through the leaky pipes to all of the buildings. The other machine is very similar, but it makes sodium hypochlorous acid. Let me just explain the difference real quickly. When you make sodium hypochlorite, you make 97% sodium hypochlorite and 3% sodium hypochlorous acid. It's toxic, but it has about a 6-month lifespan, shelf life in your climate. Sodium hypochlorous acid is non-toxic. It's made the same way with salt and water, but you hold the treatment process as you recycle it through the cell using little electricity at a very, very, very tight pH range within a 1/10 of a pH. As a result, you make 97% sodium hypochlorous acid and 3% sodium hypochlorite. It's non-toxic. You can spray it directly in your eyes, your mouth. The small machine costs $38,000. If you hook it up to an electrolytic sprayer, you can disinfect rooms like this for about 500,000 square feet. It will get on top of the surface, below, every place. And it's rated to kill the COVID-19 virus by the US EPA.
Yep.
The small sodium hypochlorite machine is $32,000 US. These are in stock. That machine will do 3,000 cubic meters per day of drinking water. The next machine up is about $40,000. It does 6,000 cubic meters per day. The next machine up about $50,000. It does 12,000 cubic meters per day. These are skid-mounted machines, very simple machines to hook up and operate and maintain. And then the next one above that does 18,000 cubic meters per day. And I want to say the price is roughly $60,000. So the price doesn't go up in proportion to the treatment. So these machines are and they're certified by NSF Standard 61, which is respected worldwide, showing that nothing in the machine will be harmful in the drinking water.
Okay. Bob, we'll meet you in the deal room. If you have more questions to ask Bob, let's meet in the deal room. This session is officially ended. The afternoon session starts at 2, and I'll see you guys all again. Thank you very much for your time with us, and bye-bye.